All right, welcome everybody to our AI Symposium themed AI Horizons Catalyst of Innovation, hosted by the School of Applied Computer Science and Information Technology. My name is Lee Willis, and I'm one of the chairs here in the School of ACIT, Applied Computer Science and IT. We look forward to an exciting afternoon of speakers and panel discussion today on the topic. At Conestoga, we would like to acknowledge that Kitchener, Waterloo, Cambridge, and Brantford, we are located on the Haldimand Tract, land promised to the Haudenosaunee people of the Six Nations, which includes 6 miles on either side of the Grand River. This is the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe, Haudenosaunee, and neutral peoples. To recognize the land is an expression of gratitude and appreciation to those whose territory we reside on, and a way of honoring the indigenous people who have been living and working on the land for thousands of years. I would like to begin by acknowledging that the land on which we gather today is the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe, Haudenosaunee, and neutral people. We make this acknowledgement as a way of recognizing and honoring the indigenous people who for thousands of years have been living and working on the land upon which our campuses reside. We have an exciting agenda for you this afternoon. And so we've started with our meet and greet. We want to thank the Bloom Culinary Restaurant, one of our programs here at Conestoga, our culinary program, and the students have supplied all of that delicious treats that were provided for you when you arrived. Well, to start us off, we would like to welcome, have a welcome address from by Jim Edwards, our Dean for the School of Applied Computer Science and Information Technology here at Conestoga College. Jim?
Thank you very much, Lee. And before we say anything, Lee, I just want to thank you. Lee is the brainchild behind making this happen today. Let's give him a huge round of applause. He's a very humble guy. He's done an amazing job. Thank you. I wanted to talk really quickly about the school. I'm going to come down to see you here today. I wanted to talk about the school, and we're very proud of our comprehensive programming across multiple verticals, 42 programs currently. We're covering an amazing breadth of programming, and we're proud to be one of the largest and most comprehensive schools of computing and IT in Canada. I also know that we have some folks joining us from other institutions in the area, and we'd like to say thank you for joining us and being a collaborative partner as we move forward. For today, I wanted to talk about what is this thing we're talking about, artificial intelligence. Let's level set amongst each other. The artificial part, we kind of know that. We're mapping the brain. We're mapping neural pathways. We're mapping the decision-making process that happens. That's the artificial part. We mapped it artificially. But the intelligence part, that is the part that goes, we're going to step back a bit here and say, where are we coming from? We start with data. You know, a store sold 3 widgets this week. Okay, that's a piece of data, right? Then you put, this store sold 3 widgets, that store sold 3 widgets, the next store sold 3 widgets. We sold 9 widgets this month. We've gone from data to information. We now know something about what we're doing. Anybody know what the next step is from data to information? I think I heard it, knowledge. Knowledge. Over the last 3 months, we started and we sold, let's say, 30 widgets 3 months ago, 20 widgets last month, and 15 widgets this month. What's happened? We've gone down in sales. We now know our sales are falling. That is the paradigm that we work in artificial intelligence. We go from data to information to knowledge. So, you know this, but where does intelligence come in? That's what the question was, artificial intelligence. Intelligence is taking pieces of knowledge and adapting that knowledge with the best guess experiences to make a decision. Because AIs make decisions. Some of them are great, and some of them, as you've seen by those memes that we see when you do some GenAI stuff, some of them aren't so great. That knowledge representation is the piece that is the scary part of where we are in today's AI world. That adaptive space, that knowledge representation and reasoning that happens in that space. Has anybody seen the Pink Panther movies with Inspector Clouseau? Anybody remember those? A few of us. There's a scene in there where the inspector goes, "Excuse me." He's in the lobby of the hotel, and there's a lady there with a dog, and he goes, "Excuse me, does your dog bite?" And she says, "No." Anybody guess what happens? The dog bit. And when the inspector asked why, the answer was, "It's not my dog." Right? So we had data, there was a dog, a person. We had information. I've been in this lobby before. I know what's going on. I had knowledge. The scene seems good. But the adaptive process made an assumption. And that's the world we live in today, where AI has become so accessible, but it's also making adaptive assumptions that are an interesting space we're in today. So it's kind of cool. You know, there's all sorts of spurious data correlations. Did you know the number of people whose first name is Edith, as that increases, the stock price of Delta Airlines increases? What's going on there, right? Spurious correlations. So when you think about AI and the world we're living in today, remember, we're on a journey. The more data you have, the more data science you apply, the more information you do, and the more reasoning you apply, the better AI is going to be for all of us. And that's why here at the School of Applied Computer Science and IT at Conestoga, we're really proud of our investment in AI in all of our programs, from the computer programming, the Bachelor of Computer Science, and even across our networking programs with applications of AI into systems management. We might hear a little bit about that today. We're really proud of our continued investment in our labs and in infrastructure. And just remember, your knowledge is a continuous journey as well. And we're here to be your partner on that journey of continuous knowledge and learning as you go about, so you can make the best decisions and the dog doesn't bite, right? So you learn what you learn. So thank you very much for coming today. You're going to hear a host of wonderful speakers and our esteemed colleagues as well. And Lee, I'd like to hand it back to you now. Thank you, and look forward to hearing more. Bye.
Wonderful. Thank you, Jim. So let's get started with our first speaker today, Hans Winter. With over 30 years of experience as a technical lead, Hans has designed and delivered complex solutions across various technology domains, including security, data, voice, collaboration, and applications. His expertise lies in understanding both the technological intricacies and business objectives, ensuring seamless alignment between what is promised and what is delivered. Since 2018, Hans has honed his focus on cybersecurity, currently serving as a system engineer at Palo Alto Networks. In this role, he partners with customers to strengthen their security posture, guiding them through the challenges of an evolving digital threat landscape. Please join me in welcoming Hans Winter to speak on AI and cybersecurity.
Thank you. Can you guys hear me okay, I guess? So this introduction, I guess, when I was asked to provide like, okay, a little bios about myself, guess what I did? English, as you're gonna notice, is not my first language, it's my third language. So ChatGPT is like pretty good for generating your bios, right? So let me get this clicker here. Okay, so I'm going to be talking about AI from a slightly different perspective than you guys may hear later on. So I'm going to be talking about like from a cybersecurity perspective. What are the risks of using AI, and also how we use AI from a defense perspective, and how the attackers are also using AI. You're going to be surprised how they're using it. So I think that AI really came to like become mainstream with ChatGPT, right? So ChatGPT is like really what brought the attention to the public about what AI can do for you, right? But to be honest, so from a cybersecurity perspective, we've been using AI for a very long time. So like I'm from Palo Alto Networks, right? And we have like maybe over 15 years ago, we had like the new generation firewalls, which basically what it did is like you have signatures that you're applying to traffic that's going through the firewall. You try to identify malware and stuff like that, right? the way we generate those signatures, the way we get the IOCs basically information of compromise, indicators of compromise. The way we generate this and we gather all these details and can create this signature so fast is because we use AI, right? It's not generative AI, right? We're using like ML models that are looking at the data, are doing a static analysis into the data. It's then detonated those samples, then it's collected, looking what the samples are doing and stuff. But anyhow, we've been doing this for a very long time, right? But really what it brought to the attention of everyone was really ChatGPT. I mean, I don't think there's any deny on that. And also, when I'm talking here, I want you guys to think about in a few different ways. So one thing is like, who's using it, right? So you have yourself using it, maybe to help you on assessment or something, right? Like I did with my BIOS. Maybe if you're a developer, you're using this maybe on GitHub, you go to GitHub and you have the Copilot and it's actually helping you to do like your code, right? Which is a problem on its own. I'll talk about it why. Or you're maybe going to be working for a company that is actually using AI on their applications, right? It's a different perspective, right? So you really have to think about, one is like you're the end user using that application, or you're actually on the other side, which is that you're actually using it in your applications, and what are the risks that you have there. One of the things about this technology is that, so the internet, we took about 23 years to get to 1 billion users, right? That was at the time the fastest growing technology. Now, well, it came mobile later on. That was like, instead of taking 23 years, took 16 years. And these technologies are like, they change the lives of everyone, right? So for example, internet, I mean, if it wasn't for the internet, I don't know how I would control my kids, right? Every time they're like, oh, I can't, Daddy, I'm not gonna do that. Well, I'm gonna cut off your internet, right? It works marvelous, right? The second way of telling them to do something is with mobile. So we're gonna take your mobile away, right? So, but then came artificial intelligence, right? AI. We are seeing the projection here to get to 1 billion users, which is like 7 years, right? It's like, this is fast. It's coming fast. You have to be prepared for it. You have to be prepared to use it, to know how to use it, to know how to use it securely, right? You can't hide. And I know people that are going to be talking here after me are going to be talking about, they understand AI a lot better than I do, okay? So, but AI is evolving, right? Like I said, I'm going to be talking to it from a cybersecurity perspective. But what you see today that AI is doing, first of all, it's not going away, and second of all, it's gonna the things that it's gonna be able to do are only gonna get better. Like, so for example, there are like robots that have been trained to learn how to walk, and they learn on their own because they're learning from their own mistakes, right? So they're actually learning with this model to actually how to walk. It's not someone saying, okay, move your first leg, move your second leg. It's like, oh, I'm trying this. Oh, I'm falling. Okay, maybe I should balance it the other way and stuff, right? Like the things that where AI is gonna go, only like you need a lot of imagination to actually foresee what's gonna go, or what's gonna come. So let's think a little bit about from an application perspective, right? Today you have you have a few applications that you see in the web that they're using AI. I gave a couple of examples already, like, so for example, GitHub, you have like a Copilot that you can use to help you on coding. You have like Microsoft that's starting with this. So you have like obviously Bard and so on, right? But the projection and like, I'll give an example, like where I work, right? So for example, at Palo Alto Networks, LLMs are really kicking in now in terms of helping our support teams, for example. If you, like a user have a problem, logs in, they describe the problem, and the AI is trying to solve that problem even before engaging a person, right? This is gonna be, this expectation is really that in a few years, most of the SaaS applications are gonna have some sort of native AI embedded in them, right? Now, now it starts to get interesting. So you have about, and now I have to look at the numbers here because I'm not very, my memory is not very good. So 43% of the enterprises today are actually using AI one way or the other, right? You have employees using them, right? And you have like all of these AI applications out there. You know, like I said before, they're just growing and growing, and people are actually starting to use them because they're useful, right? You also have like a lot of AI models out there. One of the things that's interesting, that there's like, so everybody knows about GitHub, right? Have anyone heard about Hugging Face? Yeah? So that's where you store AI models and stuff, right? It's cool, right? You can just go there and get a model. Isn't that awesome? Did you know that some of those models are actually uploaded by threat actors? Yep. So what they're doing is there are hundreds of models out there that threat actors are putting in. They do what they're supposed to do. So they're doing, let's say they're analyzing a sample, they're giving you like a verdict or something. They're actually doing that. But what they also have is a backdoor, right? So it's very important to understand the risks when you're adopting AI. If you're a user and you're using an application, like you have an AI and you're like, if you're using, adding your code on the GitHub, for example, using the Copilot, well, your code that you wrote has been used to train the AI, and so it can be leveraged by someone else, right? So IP is very important when you're using those models, right? Oh, and also like 80% of these models that are out there, even if they're not malicious, they can be jailbroken. They have vulnerabilities. You can like use them, and I'll talk about the types of attacks and stuff like and so on later on. But it's not just, AI is great. Like, don't take me wrong. I'm one of the persons, I use it, I love it. But be cautious about what you put in there. Be cautious about what you receive back, because it's not always what you expect. Now, who do you think is one of the greatest users of AI? Threat actors. Threat actors are using AI a lot. It's not a little bit, it's a lot. And here's some data that kind of shows that. So ransomware, we have, so before I go, we have a group at Palo Alto Networks called Unit 42. The reason they're called Unit 42, you guessed, is the meaning of life. These guys, they do threat research and incident response and so on, right? And so I have some statistics here that we get from them. And we see, for example, we have seen like a 50% year-over-year increase of ransomware attacks, right? The reason it increases is obviously because there's a lot of money. There's a huge economy behind the ransomware. And the reason it's also increasing is because you're able to do this faster and faster, right? And the other thing, if you're on the other side of the house now and you're defending against that, you have less and less time to respond. Let's talk about this a little bit. 2021, we, like Unit 42, used to see like the cases, like from the beginning, like from the compromise up to the exfiltration, They used to be, and I'll talk about, just later on, I'll talk about the the cyber chain. And I'll explain a little bit more what these means these days, the data. But so 44 days from the day an endpoint or a target was compromised up to the actual execution, so reaching your target. Right? 2022, 30 days. 2023, 5 days. Now, hours. Hours. Now, imagine this. You have a SOC like your security operation center, right? They receive an alert, and they're like starting to investigate. How much time do they have until hits the fan, right? So, think about this. So, do you guys have you heard about the SolarWinds incident, right? It was a pretty large incident that happened end of 2020, 2021. Okay, so back then, what happened was that SolarWinds, they provide like a monitoring software that a lot of companies use, right? They got hacked. No big deal, right? Happens. But what happened with them was instead of they going and they doing like ransomware or trying to get their credit card numbers or what have you, no. They executed their code. They changed the code. They added malware into their code, put it back in there, and let them distribute to all the customers. So now everyone that used SolarWinds had legit malware installed into their infrastructure, right? It was an interesting time, let's put it this way, right? So everybody was running to patch it and so on and so forth, but remember, this was in 2021, 44 days. So they had 44 days to actually kind of get through it. Imagine today, I talked about from the moment the attack begins with the execution being hours now. If they were using AI at the time to identify their targets, to execute the data and move laterally in there to get like the inside their target to get what they wanted, how like it would be worse than the CrowdStrike thing that happened like not too long ago, right? It would be disaster. Okay, so here's like what I was talking about, the cyber chain. Cyber chain is basically what happens when from the beginning of an attack up to the point that you actually get hit your target. Okay. This kind of compares what it used to be to what it is actually today, now that the threat actors are using AI. So recon, for example, the first thing you have to do when you're going after a target is finding out what they are, if they have some vulnerabilities that you can leverage. Maybe you want to do like a phishing attack, right? But if you want to do a phishing attack, it's not, if you send out an email from the prints there, that's probably not going to work these days, right? We got a little bit smarter than that, right? So you're not going to click on anything. But if you use AI to go to your company, get all the information from LinkedIn, like ask your AI to actually craft an email based on information that you have from LinkedIn, or based on information that you have, like public information about you, right? It's a lot more convincing. Those emails are a lot more convincing. They don't have spelling mistakes, right? Like they used to be. They're probably a lot better than I would do because, as you can see, my English is not my first language. But what's really interesting about that is that it used to take days to do this, and now, like in minutes, you have your email crafted just for that company, right? Send it out, and everything happens faster. So when you talk about exploitation is like, so let's say, for example, someone is targeting a company that has like a publicly exposed web page. Usually what we do is like you're going to be scanning that, you're going to be looking for vulnerabilities, you're going to try to find out what they have there and try to exploit those vulnerabilities. Before, this used to be a little bit more tedious job because you actually have to go through the vulnerabilities, see what you're going to be applying, and so on and so forth. But if you automate this and like, okay, I saw this, do this, I tried that before on that, because you train your model, right? I tried this before in a similar system, and this is how I did it. Again, down to minutes in terms of how you can exploit that. And then once you exploit that web server, listen, web server doesn't have anything. It's just an application. It's just rendering data and sending to the endpoint, right? What you want to really do is like you want to get to the back end, right? So then once you have compromised that web server, you start moving laterally and you're going towards your target. Again, what you do once you compromise that web server is going to depend on what infrastructure they have on their side. If it's, God forbid, if it's like a Windows Defender, which is like the simplest way of like, just go on the web, click how to bypass the Defender, like everybody knows how to do that, right? But it depends on what you see there. You can actually do different things. And if you have playbooks that you can automate and use AI to actually identify what you can do, again, that's how they made it from 44 days to 2 hours, right? So when we look at AI systems, right, you have, there are new risks that you have to look at. There are new things, there are new attack vectors for us to defend and for the threat actors to enjoy. So when you look at these AI systems, they all start like with, we're talking about before, you have all the data, you have the data layer, right? You're gonna train your models with data. And I'll talk a little bit about this in the next couple of slides, but what happens if that data is poisoned, right? Did you know that ChatGPT was actually originally trained with Wikipedia and Reddit? So what happens if you put malicious links into those sites? Because it's Reddit, it's Wikipedia, right? I can put a malicious link in there. And then your model is going to be trained with my malicious data. Thank you very much, right? So you have to protect your data. You have to protect your data in several ways, even afterwards. But then it's the algorithm layer, right? The algorithm, like it's the model itself, right? Now you have to protect your model because, like I said, there are models that you can be jailbroken. There are models that you can trick getting stuff out of it that you're not supposed to get. There's the actual model has to be protected, right? And then we have the computational layer. The computational layer is kind of like, it's really the infrastructure that's running everything, right? In a way, that's not new because we do have, the computational layer has been here for a while, it's just expanding and stuff like that, but you still have to protect it, right? And last but not least, you have like the application itself, because when you're writing an application that's leveraging AI, you still have the application on the top that's gonna be receiving the data back from your models, and then you're gonna be doing something with that data, right? So this is kind of breaking down, like it's a blueprint of securing your AI cycle, right? It starts, like if you see on the bottom there, bottom left, you have like the data processing, you're gathering your data, that you're going to be using to like train your machines, right? Train your models. You have to, like I mentioned before, you have to protect the data. You don't want to use the data that's stained. You don't want people to, again, think about the co-pilot. I'm Microsoft or I'm Palo Alto Networks or whatever. I'm having my own data that I'm using to train my machine, right? My ML models. I don't want that data to get out there because that's my IP. I have stuff that maybe I don't want to share with everyone, but I still need to train a machine to know how to solve those problems. So it's not just someone obtaining the information that you're using to train your machine learning models, but also protecting the data that you have there, right? The other thing is, when the model is out there, you have to protect it while it's running. You have to check what's going on. These models, they have check and balances, right? So there are things that, quick example. One article I was just reading that a fellow sent to me was about how people were tricking ChatGPT to give them a recipe of a bomb. There are checks and balances for that, right? In theory, you will not get this out from ChatGPT. The information is there, but it's not supposed to give you that. What did they do? Just ask the question, writing backwards. So what happens is that the first layer that's actually looking at the question says, well, no, it's nothing wrong with here. What do I do with this? Well, I translate this to something that I understand. But at that point, you already passed the balance, and now the next phase, your model is not taking that into account. There's other ways, like using base64 to ask questions. Ask your question, go to a base64 website that just encodes your message in base64, put it on ChatGPT. It will actually give you an answer. It will know that's base64 and will translate it and stuff, right? But you have to account for stuff like that. So now thinking, like, if we put our head on from a CISO perspective, you have all these problems that we talked about, like adversarial AIs. I'll talk a little bit more about the actual specific attacks in the next slide, but you have all these problems that you have to deal with, right? You're like, oh my God, why should I use AI? Like, I have all this headache. I'm gonna get my data stolen. It's another threat vector. But on the other hand, you have your business saying, hey, this is gonna improve our productivity. We're gonna increase sales. It's gonna be awesome. Where's the balance, right? You have your employees. They wanna use it. Right? You're working at a company and you have to write an essay, and it's a lot easier with ChatGPT or any other tools. But what is happening to that data when you put it in there, right? You're just a user, you're just putting that data out there. But where is that going to? You have to know what to do. So you have to have sanction applications that you control and you may have. So for example, at Palo Alto Networks, we can use AI, and then we have corporate rules that actually say, hey, how you can use it, what you can and cannot do. And we also have an AI broker that's basically a front end to whatever the other tools that has been sanctioned, right? And so you control if someone tries to put a code out there, which is Palo Alto Networks IP, well, it's going to be blocked, right? Because we are actually looking into what's going out there, right? If it's an internal model that we're using, then the security is different. But you have to keep that in mind. Use AI. Be aware of the risks. Be prepared, right? I just want to give you a couple of examples about some of the attacks that we see out there, right? One of them, which is dear to our mind, is evasion attacks. And why? Well, remember when I started, I was talking about the malware that we actually have signatures that we build, have ML models that we actually apply on the endpoint or on the firewall and so on. that's going to be checking for zero-day malware online as it is going through and stuff. Even before you detonate or anything like that, we're analyzing those samples. We're trying to determine and give it a verdict if it's malware or if it's benign or if it's grayware or so on. So what do threat actors want to do? They want to evade. They want, if they knew the model, how it works and what it's in there, they can actually use that information to actually bypass those models and avoid being blocked and stuff, right? So that's kind of the evasion, an evasion example, right? You have other things like face recognition. You don't want the face to be recognized or something like that, so you put a scar or whatever. So it's a problem having evasion, right? The second one that I have here is like an injection attack. Not to be confused with insecure output. So injection attack is concerned about the information that you're adding into the model, and it's trying to break the model itself. Like the example that I gave from writing the question backwards, right? Or using base 64 to encode the message and then bypassing some of those guardrails. That's like a prompt, like an injection attack, right? The second one is the insecure output handling. Have you guys heard about SQL injection, for example, right? Where you're putting in, like, you're trying to actually break the system, trying to like get root access or something like that. So it's because it's like sometimes you put some special characters in there that when you're trying to, when the machine is actually interpreting that SQL server, the code is actually not prepared to handle that, and then you may get root access, you may be able to execute a command in the server or something, right? That's kind of the same, that's how I compare it to the output handling, because you're not really trying to trick the model itself. You know what the answer that you're gonna get. You're trying to use that answer that you're gonna get to break the application that's being fed with that information. The next one here is the transfer attack. The transfer attack is like you basically trying to leverage something that worked on one model, and you're trying to do this on another model, right? Think about there are a couple of ways, a couple of types of attacks in that. One is called like a black box, when you actually don't know what the AI is doing. You don't have a lot of information about it, right? So those are a little bit more difficult, but based on, you can kind of infer some vulnerabilities based on the type of models and so on, right? The second one is the white box. The white box, you actually know what they're like. You have some information about those models, and you can leverage that to break that system, right? Poisoning attack, I talked about that. Is like when you're tainting the data that's actually training your models. Like I said, if you know where the data is coming from and you taint that, it doesn't take much to actually start getting some interesting responses there. Oh, model stealing is actually pretty cool too. Model stealing is basically so building those models is not cheap. Okay, you need a lot of data, a lot of processing power. If I can steal that model from you and I can use it for my systems, save money, right? You can actually start, so for example, one of the things that you do is like, you do a bunch of different queries, like, and I might talk a lot of queries, to then infer based on the answers, you're actually training your own model based on that, and you're leveraging that other model, right? That's not fair, but there is ways of actually go around that. So for example, if you have like an API open, so ChatGPT, you can use an API to get a response, for example, but you can rate limit how many calls you're gonna get on that API, for example, right? So if you think about everything that I just said, in terms of how fast it is that you have to be. The only way of defending yourself against AI is using AI. You have to do this. This is why, everybody talks about AI. If you talk to any vendor, any of the vendors is going to have some sort of AI built into the products. And there's a reason for that. Because if you don't, you're not going to be effective. You're not going to be able to stand up against these new attacks, right? This is just a picture that illustrates what you have to do, right? And this is why it's so hard. So on the left side here, you see like network, endpoints, identity, cloud, and stuff. This is where like your cybersecurity system is going to be collecting all the data, right? You're going to ingest a lot of data. It's all about the data. Ingest all of that data, and we as humans, have you been in a SOC? Have you seen how many things are blinking and stuff like that? How do you figure out which ones you go after, what you don't go after? Can you? Yes, you can. The guys that are really, really, really good, that they can actually look at it and say, hey, this is more important, let's target that and so on. But it takes time, even for those guys that are seeing this every single day, right? It takes time. If you don't automate the stuff that you're doing, if you're not using the AI to actually, in your SOC, to treat all of that stuff that's coming into your SOC, you're not going to be able to do anything. Just one interesting tidbit here. Our SOC does not have 24/7 people. And we are a huge target. We don't have people 24/7. We do have people in pagers, well, pagers, I don't think that exists anymore. Now I just dated myself. But yeah, we don't have people because everything is like automated. From out of the billions and billions of alarms that we receive, like most of them are just, they just enter a playbook and they're either eliminated because it's, a lot of times it's just noise. So for example, yeah, we've seen a malware and we block it. Yeah, so what? Right? If it's a command and control, then well, maybe we should look at this because something got infected and it's trying to beacon out. So it depends what it is, what you want to do. But at the end of the day, we have like billions of alerts coming in. You know, have like 10, 15 cases that we actually do in a month, right? So I'll leave you with this. Data. It's all about the data. When you're using AI, use it. Like, by all means, use it. Think about what you're putting out there, though. Right? Because it's not any secret that Google has been doing this for ages, right? To collect data, target advertisement, and what have you. Data. Well, thank you very much. I hope you enjoy it. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. You're a cybersecurity teacher. You cannot ask questions.
Okay, thank you, Hans. So my name is Aladdin. I'm a professor in Sheridan College. I teach cybersecurity, cloud, and AI. So it's a 3-in-1. I designed and teach always AI and cybersecurity, and the emergence between them and the cross-relation. So you are from vendor side and you are using your embedded AI solutions in your products for malware analysis, anomaly behaviors, signature analysis, and all of this. Are you aware, my question, are you aware if there are any third-party open source AI tools for cybersecurity that can help the academia, because we are academia perspective for faculty and also for the students for better leveraging the skills of both sides of using AI tools for cybersecurity and also for the cloud. If you are aware of these, I will appreciate if you can have some suggestions or insights. Thank you very much.
So we used to we used to have one of the we have a product called Axor, for example, and we used to have, and it's actually too bad because I think about a few months ago, really, we stopped the community version that could actually be used. The product has AI built in, and you can automate your SOC and so on. I don't know if you remember the Misto. So the Misto was actually acquired by Palo Alto like a few years ago, and it's the engine behind Axor. There was a community version there. I don't think we had that community version anymore. It's capped in terms of number of calls you can make and so on. But so from a public one though, like open source and so on, I honestly would have to think about it. Okay. I know some of the universities actually use it, some tools. But it's like, so if you think about Hugging Face and so on, you're probably gonna find something there. But
yeah,
sorry. It will be great to build some of the AI prototypes projects, for students and all of this stuff to leverage their cybersecurity skills and also, get engaged whenever you migrate to the on-prem networks and also on the cloud, because now all of the cloud providers like Azure or AWS, they are selling security as a service, so they are using their large. Yeah. And, thank you.
I just wanted to mention that Palo Alto has been an amazing partner with Conestoga and really helped enable our student learning. So thank you for that, and we look forward to continuing that partnership. Thank you very much.
Moving along, the panel discussion, impact of GenAI on post-secondary. We'd like to ask our panel speakers and moderator to the stage, and we'll get that section of our symposium going. Wow, this is a stacked panel. All right, well, first we'd like to welcome Dr. Paula Gouveia, Vice President Academic of Conestoga College. Dr. Pejman Salahi, Executive Dean, School of Applied Computer Science, Information Technology, and Creative Industries, and Director, Digital Learning Simulation, Conestoga College. It's a long title. Mr. Jim Edwards, Dean for the School of Applied Computer Science and Information Technology here at Conestoga College. And again, Mr. Hans Winter, Senior Solutions Consultant for Palo Alto Networks. And Dr. Shana Raza, Applied Machine Learning Scientist, Responsible AI Vector Institute for Applied Artificial Intelligence. And our moderator today is Dr. Anastasia Bima, a professor here at Conestoga College and program coordinator for the Applied Artificial Intelligence and Machine Learning program at Conestoga. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Lee. It's wonderful to be a part of this event and with all of you here, wonderful audience and wonderful panelists on the dais. I'm really happy to be a part of this event, and I'm here as a moderator for this exciting session to hear from the incredible panelists over here about their perspectives and insights about few questions that we have, with AI in education, right? I will not bother you too much, I promise. All right, I have few questions for you and would like to have your perspectives or insights if you're, open to them. The first question that I have is, how do you envision, AI influencing the future of post-secondary education? Anyone could,
I can go. I can give it a shot, but keep in mind, I am not an educator. But from my perspective, I think that, like I said in the presentation, right, I don't think you can get away from AI, so you shouldn't shy away. Like, I think the worst thing you can do is like shut it down, right? It's important for me, from my perspective, for the students to learn how to use it and how to use it responsibly, and to honestly increase their productivity as students, right? And to learn out of it. And at the same time, being cognizant about the risks and the hallucinations that was mentioned. That's actually very important, because sometimes you're actually trying to write something about an essay, or like, oh, just put information in there, get something out. It reads really well. Oh my God, this looks awesome. I'm gonna ace this this assessment, right? And then here comes the hallucination, and oh my God, you didn't know. So you have to validate. It doesn't just have to look good. You have to validate if the information is actually correct, right?
Agreed. So, yes, Paula.
It's on now. Okay. And I completely agree with what Hans said. In terms of what we need to provide for our students, we need to provide them with the opportunity to learn about AI. Our industries are requesting it as a skill. So how is it affecting? It's affecting what we learn, what we teach, how we teach, but it's also affecting the organization, because like any other industry, how we operate, we need to actually embrace it as part of what we do each and every day. And so when you think about the impact on education, we can't just stay focused on the student. We have to stay also focused on how we do what we do as a teaching institution and how we do what we do as an industry. So from the perspective of how I might use it in my everyday job, how our faculty will use it, and how we then engage with industry to ensure our students have the skills to be able to then impact industry as they go forward. So it's a multifaceted way in which it's going to impact, is impacting. And what I'm very happy to say is we've moved well beyond 2022 when it was all about academic integrity. It is not just about academic integrity. We really have to move beyond that.
So I think like AI can be used as a great personalization tool for the students. By that I mean, for example, different students at different intellectual level or pedagogical level. So it can provide a personalized path to each of the student. It can also offload much of the logistics or laborsome work from the teachers or the faculty by, for example, doing grading and everything fairly, if due responsibly. So it can help a lot. And what in response teachers can do, they can use their time more mindfully, for example, giving one-to-one mentoring and personalized mentoring to each of the students. So that's the good side. The bad side is that like if AI is used too much, so I think like students may be over-relied on this technology. They will stop using their brain and rely more on the solutions without going deeper in that how, for example, this mathematical formula or this algorithm is being solved. So I think it can be used for very good, as I mentioned, for personalization, but at the same time, there must be some human intervention, some supervisory role that see their students are not over-relied on that.
Right. Thank you for your answers. That was insightful. I agree. Using AI responsibly by the students and the professors, both for academic integrity purposes as well as learning purposes, is very crucial. The other question that we have is, what do you think are the biggest opportunities or possible challenges and risks that could be, coming with AI in post-secondary education?
I can. Is it okay? Yeah. So I think I'm going to just like give it an answer in kind of like a little more high level, meta level. What is the opportunity and how we can just do that? And some of the answers that folks are alluded to is just kind of like, and if you look at it, the crux of it, the samples of that is manifesting itself in terms of like a one-on-one approach that we have with the students. So I'm going to go back in time in 80s. There was a gentleman called Benjamin Bloom. For educators in the room, we are all familiar with him. He's an educational psychologist. At the time, he wrote an article and he called it 2 Sigma problem. Mm-hmm. And the whole premise was that his point was, if we can, there's a way, if by any shape or form, we can just like have a one-on-one educational experience with a particular student, mm-hmm. then the performance of a student as opposed to classroom, the performance of students are gonna increase by 2 sigma on the standard deviation. And what that means basically, if you have a below average students, that students can be above average, 2 standard deviation. If you have an average student, that students can be excellent student. But the way that he framed it as a problem, because he said, well, there's no way we can do this, to have one-on-one. So with AI, we can argue that we are getting there. We're getting at a point that we can have through technology, whether it's going to be like tutoring, whether it's going to be like one-on-one with a professor, whether it's going to be counseling, whether it's going to be student support. We're getting to the point that this technology will enable us or help us to provide that one-on-one, I would say, attention to particular students. And based on that theory, we're going to just like increase the productivity and increase the performance of the students. That's on the opportunity side. On the challenging side, there are challenges being associated with it. With any other technology, you can say that, okay, we have the challenges, and Paula mentioned there was a huge focus on academic integrity, but I would say also the challenges that we may have with the certain skill set they may lose as a result of reliance on AI. And we can talk about creativity, creative problem solving, emotional intelligence. Too much reliance on technology is going to affect us from that end in a negative way. And we will have some challenges to train our students to be able to be more productive in the society and in the industry as well. So we need to be mindful of those pieces.
Right. I'll move on to the next question. This is.
Add something.
Yeah, please, sorry.
I mean, I think we need to be honest about what the challenges are. And there's been some recent research, the Conference Board of Canada put it out there around how AI is impacting post-secondary education, who's using it in which fields of study. And so predominantly from a student perspective, it's engineering. And so when you get down into other areas like health, they're saying, I'm not using it. And now imagine what we just heard from our 2 panelists and the amount of data and what we can actually do, harnessed for good and protecting privacy, to answer some of those pivotal questions. And yet we're not encouraging that yet in those fields as study. But to encourage it, you have to think about what we have to do as an organization and train ourselves. So when asking faculty, how much are you using it? You get 20% that will say, I'm using it almost always. I really am engaged. And yet 80% are saying, I have no guidance and I have no training on how to use it. So what do we have to do to change that mindset and build the comfort level and the skills to be able to engage with it as a tool in our practice, so that when we think about the areas where we're going to see it influence, we're going to be better preparing ourselves to be able to better prepare our students, so that what we don't have is a lack of creativity, a lack of critical thinking, a lack of empathy, all of those really important things that we conjure immediately in our minds when we think about what happens when we're sitting by ourselves in front of a computer, letting it answer all the questions for us. So I do think that's a challenge. It's not just a challenge of post-secondary, it's a challenge societally, and I don't think we can underestimate it, because we have to be able to be just as comfortable, I'm not saying as proficient, but just as comfortable with it, and able to enable others to develop the proficiency that we need.
Right.
Sorry, I had to add that in.
No, that's fine. Yeah. So it's more like, be human, but shake hands with AI. Right? Would anybody else would like to add to the question of opportunities? Right. This is something which I was looking forward to, AI's role in lifelong learning. So how might AI impact the concept of lifelong learning and professional development? Do you think it would impact or no?
So, as you know by now, I work with cybersecurity, right? And cybersecurity is something that it's constantly changing, right? And I find myself today going often to ChatGPT or different sources like that to actually find answers of stuff that maybe I knew how to do before. So for example, stupid technical example, but I was actually trying to install a private certificate on one of my applications that was running on a certain system, and I'm like, oh damn it, I've done this like 10 years ago, right? I don't remember how to do this, right? So you go into like these tools and you just like, in like what would take me hours to find the answer, you find it right there. So it's keeping, there's two things, I'm doing something new because cybersecurity, you have all this stuff is always new, and I don't have time to waste on going back on what I used to know and I don't know anymore. And so I find it in both ways of like keeping me up to date in the new stuff, as well as like remind me of the stuff that I can't forget, right? And so I think that anyone like that's been in the industry for a while can benefit so much from this, because it's a great tool if you know how to use it, right?
Great.
I love the question because as post-secondary educators and administrators, we think about learning in major blocks. You're here for a 3-year program, you're here for a bachelor degree. But lifelong learning is also about learning small things quickly. And just as the internet disrupted how do I fix my microwave? Oh, now I can go on YouTube and find how to fix that quickly.
Right.
AI tools such as ChatGPT and others are now saying, how do I do this? Oh, I'll just ask. And I've learned something in a short, quick, digestible module, to your point. And it still leaves times for the bigger endeavors, like I want to be a musician or a photographer at some point in life. I get a taste for it, I understand it, and it then becomes an enabler. It becomes an enabler for, I have an interest in this, I enjoyed it, I learned something, I can do it.
Right.
And now I want to find out the next step in my lifelong learning journey.
Great. Yes.
So I want to also add that, again, like anything else with AI or any other technology, two-sided as well. Yes, there's an opportunity for us to just use AI for become a lifelong learner. It makes it easier. I'm going to give a couple of examples. But at the same time, it creates that problem as well. Meaning that with the advancement in AI, with the way that our industry evolves because of this, and other things as well, but this is one of the elements, the need for lifelong learning it's become even more and more important. Until probably 2 years ago, you would have said any of our graduates need to probably change their jobs about 7 times in their life, and 3 of them needs major, reskilling, upskilling, whatever you call it. But I haven't seen the recent numbers, but I bet that's going to be now 15 times they need to change their jobs, and 7 of them they need some sort of learning something new, going back to school. So because of that, now it's more important for us to be lifelong learners. But as just said, AI will help us doing that by creating flexibility in terms of educational methods and technology, creating new ways for us to be able to just to deliver our academic content using, digital simulations, using tutoring, personal tutoring, using those elements. So basically curate the educational experience for the audience where they are at their journey. To Jim's point, not everyone has 3 years to go to school. They may just have an afternoon, right? Or just Hans's example, well, I just want to do this sub routine. That's my education for today, and that's what. I can't go to the library and take the train to open a book. Mm-hmm. So it enables us that. But I think it's important for us to understand that it creates the opportunity. It has challenges as well, at the same time. So we need to, basically the art is to utilize the best parts, trying to mitigate the risks, right?
Right. So you say it's a two-sworded knife. You make the best use of it, balance on it. Whenever time permits, you go for the professional development, activities. When you don't have the time, just ask ChatGPT and learn about it. Anybody? Yeah, sorry.
No, it's okay. I just think it's a fruitful conversation. Yeah. We actually asked our industry partners, and over 500 of them responded. And the question was, how prepared is your organization to support the needs that you are going to have as an organization? So can you support your own upskilling, reskilling? Only 18% said they were okay. Mm-hmm. So the majority of them were unsure, and that seems to be a very common answer. I don't know what I'm supposed to do, and I don't know what somebody else needs me to do. And so you think about what the needs are going to be and what we need to imagine inside of academia and outside as providing the mechanisms to help people become comfortable, to help people use those prompts properly, to write them properly, and I say to assess what comes out. Because as our 2 previous panelists said, there has to be a significant focus on the fact checking. And if you Google it, you will see that fact checking is now a full-time job, that you can be hired to do that. And what are you checking? The facts that AI is providing for you. So again, all of these different facets to what we need to imagine together, and then what we imagine as educational institutions to help others to be able to bridge the gap, because it's moving very quickly, as you said.
Right. Thank you very much for your insights. And I would say, we all have to use AI responsibly, in other words, right? Can I go for one more question? Yep. So how do you see the balance between AI and human involvement in the post-secondary learning process evolving over time?
I can go first.
Shaina would like to go first. Yep, please.
I think first of all, this is also related to the previous question, that even for lifelong learning, it's very good. I mean, it's also related to accessibility. Like, for example, some years ago, only people who are in a particular geographical area, they can, develop themselves professionally in a better way, but now this is no more a hurdle. For the post-secondary, I would say the students, I would say their minds may be tender in terms of the harms of the AI. So these kind of symposium, for example, are useful to make them aware that beside everything that you see as good, there are also some harms. So I think there is also need for intervention, like from some supervisory kind of committee, I would say. For example, how students are using this generative AI or artificial intelligence, how they're using. If there is no supervisory committee of this kind, then things will go out of hand. Like recently, there have been many incidents. For example, students who have not used this AI in a proper way, they have been blacklisted from certain academic areas because of plagiarisms. You will not believe that there is, in terms of the research paper, in the last 2 years, 2022 to 2024, there are 80% more retractions from the journals and conferences than in the previous 50 years.
Right.
Yeah, so the students in the post-secondary, they must be made aware of the harms of AI. They must use it, but responsibly. I think there should be some supervisory committee. It can be some professors, some psychologists, some, who can, evaluate all these processes. It doesn't have to be teachers. It can be a big committee, I think.
Right, thank you.
Just real quick, post-secondary institutions have a multitude of roles and responsibilities. There are educators, there are also administrators, there are security officers, there are IT people. I can't list them all, there are so many. And everybody has a role and responsibility. And this is the same in corporations. You have security officers, you have IT professionals whose job is to ensure that things are safe, secure, standard, supportable from a business continuity perspective. They remain operational. And at the same time, from an education perspective, we're educating students that will get employment 4 years from now, maybe 5 years from now. So to your question, there's a real responsibility to get everybody in the room early and often to talk about the collaborative need to move forward collectively. Our vendor partners, they're adopting these practices now. And our students need to learn those practices at their earliest opportunity. So it is a human problem as much as it's a technology problem. We need to adapt and ensure our students are ready for the future. Your turn, sir.
Well, I think I mentioned it's one of the things that we're experiencing at this point. We see it in probably just kind of more of a more profound way, is the similar things that we experienced when we were just going to online, using any sort of technology, right? It's not a new thing for us. The paradigm shift for education post-secondary, we had similar feelings probably about 20 years ago about online education. Oh my God, what are we going to do? No one is going to come to college anymore, right? Oh, look where we are, right? So, but I would say that part of the reason and part of the feedback we received, particularly from industry, and Paula mentioned, we did a really detailed survey with our employers, and we hear them from, for example, from program advisory committees. It's that, and we've been hearing it due to previous experiences that we had, was the importance of what we call it soft skills, and whatever you want to call that, but it's basically the ability for you to have critical thinking, problem solving, communications, be able to work in teams, right? Being able to have emotional intelligence, right? So those are the things that if we categorize them as soft skill or whatever the name would be, those are the ones that we cannot use machines or AI in this case to train students on those. So no matter what kind of technology we're using, those are the pieces that we still need instructors in the classroom. We still need human connection. We still need to have those pieces as well. And this is something that just like we've been like talking about. And also I'm going to use the line now. So we have an AI committee, and a line came from one of our members was, it is a co-pilot, it's not autopilot, right? Meaning that, well, you're going to rely on it, but it's not going to do the job for you 100% time. So I use the line.
You use the line. I like you use the line. But to bring it back, yes, there's the entire human element of what it is that we do, and that it's really important to never lose that human element. That same committee also developed a list of do's and don'ts that we put out to the entire college community, and that we also share with our students. Where do you use this and where do you not use it? So going back, Shayna, to some of the things that you were highlighting, and it is where you have to make ethical decisions, where you have to use judgment, where you have, if you're going to try to get AI to do some strategic thinking for you, no, it's not going to be really strategic because it's only going to go back to something that's already been learned. We need to imagine what we need to do to be creating new knowledge, to be innovative. And if we only ever base it on the knowledge that has been already established, where are we going? So the interface between what I call human and AI is that the human progresses only if it continues to learn. And learning requires a lot of help, assistance, guidance, support, piloting, co-piloting, but no autopiloting, let's keep saying. But we can't ignore something. And we learned it as we had to go through what we went through with COVID-19. Technology has the ability to bring access like it never did before. And we have things that students were able to participate and do to a much greater extent because we were leveraging technology in ways that we were not comfortable with, that really equalized the ability for them to perform. And that is phenomenal. So we can't lose sight of some of the really great things that this will continue to allow us to do by allowing people to access new amounts of information, ask questions that they never imagined that they could get a quick answer to. That's brilliant, but it's always the critical element to it. And that you can't ignore. And that's where I think the interface of keeping the human in the decision-making is so critical for us.
Right. That was very insightful. I think, being human, but again, relying on AI to kind of speed up your regular tasks is what you can look up to, but not, rely on AI to make decisions for you. Don't do that. Right? Thank you very much for, your valuable insights. I thank each of the panelists out here for adding value to this incredible session today. And I'll hand over to Lee for the rest of the session. Thank you.
Wow, thank you very much, Anasuya and the panel. Very insightful. Looking forward to the next version of our symposium series coming soon. We will be looking at maybe a cybersecurity area as well, led by our chair, Jim Dixon. So look forward to that. We also have Conestoga's media, kind of Bruno's team, I call them, in the house today. Big thank you for them and all their support, as well as the volunteer committee from the AI and machine learning program here at Conestoga. Lots of student volunteers. So thank you, everybody. This being our first, I think we've set the stage just to move forward to get bigger and better for our new initiative of adapting and creating an environment within the community. Just one last section for us. I'd like to call back to the stage Dr. Pejman to provide some closing remarks.
All right, thank you, everyone. It was really great. So I think I learned a lot from our guest speakers, and I think as we were just like wrapping this up today, I want every one of us to reflect on what we heard today, what we learned. Right, we've learned about the role of role of AI in cybersecurity is one of the emerging areas that we're doing. We've learned about the role that we all need to play in terms of safeguarding ourselves and the society, our students, against potential threats that we have potentially with the emergence of AI technology. And we had a good conversation about like the role of AI and what it's going to do to the future of post-secondary education. And ultimately, when we were talking about post-secondary education, we're talking about training the students to be the next generation of professionals, and also, as Jim mentioned, the next generation of citizens, right? So they're not just going to the professions, they're going to be, as post-secondary education, we're training people to be citizens as well. So I think it was just really, really great discussions that we had. And what I wanted to just, like, I was actually thinking about, I've been thinking about this for a while, and we've been thinking all about AI, what's going to do. It's, as you can just like hear today, it's all two sides, right? It has benefits, tremendous benefits, but the more powerful benefits that it gives us also has a higher risks, right? I think our panel members and also our speakers talked about them in terms of like, two sides of things, right? So for the past couple of years since this emergence of generative AI we've been talking about, there were two camps almost. Some camps that said, well, you know what, we should not touch it. It's going to destroy our society as we know it. It's going to destroy the college system. It's going to destroy the university system. We will just go into nothingness, right? And there were some the other side that were talking about, well, it's going to be great. We've been through this. We went through industrial revolution. Nothing happened. Yeah, it was tough, but we got through it. So we should sit back, relax, and see how it goes. But I think what we learned today from our guest speakers was you can't sit back and relax, and you cannot be all pessimistic. You need to be somewhere in the middle. It's just a balancing act, right? And I think we all need to, as members of society, as members of educational industrial community, we need to focus on that piece and saying that, okay, we all need to be participants in this whole decision and this whole topic, right? We need to be thinking about it. We need to fight for it. We need to fight for good use cases of AI, and we need to fight against bad use cases of AI because, there are bad actors there. We need to be able to do that, and we need to also advocate for responsible policies and procedures to enable us to push for those good use cases. Because ultimately, I think artificial intelligence, the most empowering or most powerful goal of artificial intelligence is to augment and improve human intelligence, right? And that's going to happen through a lot of discussions that we have. And one of them was one of the things that we're talking about today, right? I think thanks for showing up. By showing up, all of us be part of this decision-making process. And together we can just push for, better advocacy, better use of AI, and those positive use cases which are going to make our society a better place to live, okay? Again, I want to thank everyone for joining us today, but also a heartfelt thank to our two guests here today, Dr. Raza and and Hans Winter, for taking time from your afternoon on a Saturday and join us. It was great to see you both. As a small token of our appreciation, I do believe, where did you put them? Here. Also, just thank you to everyone at the school and our colleagues here, Jim Edwards, our Dean, Lee, I see Arch now, and Samara sitting there. And our folks in event media production, I see Farhan and Abby are here. So they're just like, they helped us with the screen and AV and all those pieces. And also special thank to our VP Academic, Dr. Paulo Gouveia, for just letting me know to not forget the line. So that's all good. Anyhow, so thank you again for coming today. This is going to be one of our first post-pandemic events of like this. We are planning for more, and hopefully we see you in other events for exciting discussions around different emerging areas of technology. Thank you, everyone.
Awesome. Thank you, Pedrin. With that, we'll call the session to a close. However, there we go. I've just been asked if we could have a group photo with the panel members and Anasuya on stage, just posting as well. All right, so if you don't mind returning back to the stage yet again, thank you so much. And thank you all to those who attended today. It was excellent that you gave us your Saturday to hear this conversation. And again, look for our next series as we go through developing a community of ACS IT members around these topics that we teach and love so much in our programs. Thank you very much.
And let's give Lee another hand for organizing a wonderful event. Excellent job, sir. Excellent job.